So I'm talking to Sandra as part of the BBC 100 Novels project about a book that changed her life in some way. So welcome, Sandra. And have you got your book there?
Yes, I've got it. I don't know if you can see.
Yeah,
I've got it as a part of a complete Sherlock Holmes work. So, and it's been well. I mean, it's well used, as you can see. It's
it
been well
looks
loved.
like it.
I've read it several times. So yeah, it's in there. And it's The Hound of the Baskervilles.
The Hound of the Baskervilles. So when did you first read The Hound of the Baskervilles?
I read it in French actually because I was living in France, and I read it as a teenager. It wasn't my first Sherlock Holmes. I think I read The Valley of Fear, and then I then went to The Hand of the Baskervilles, and obviously then when my English was good enough, I then read it in English, and I've read it several times since. So yeah, so it's
And
a long
so
time.
how old were you when you
Oh, I must have been about
found it?
16.
And
Uh,
what drew you to it initially?
well, I've always liked mystery. So when I was a younger girl, I used to read, I think in English you call them Nancy Drew.
Yes, yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
Nancy Drews, yeah. So I had the whole collection. So I've always loved mystery. And then obviously I then moved on to Agatha Christie. And then I borrowed from the French library, I borrowed Sherlock Holmes. And then I went to The Hand of the Baskervilles. And, you know, as I said, I've read it several times now.
So what is it about the Hound of the Baskervilles that kind of had such an impact on you?
I think because of the malls, you know, it's very forbidding, and there's a sense of menace, uh, and you know, a diabolical dog. I mean, that's quite extraordinary, really. You know, just roaming the mall and killing people with with fright, this curse, this evil. I found that really fascinating. There's obviously a bit of a love story as well, because Sir Henry is obviously quite in love with Beryl Stapleton. So there's all these elements there, and it's quite dark and gothic, and I just obviously like that sort of thing. And to me, when I read it first time, I was in France, and to me, Sherlock Holmes and that type of story, like the fog and all this Victorian thing, that's so British. I just was attracted to it.
So were you a bit let down when you came to England and it wasn't quite like
No,
Sherlock
not at
Holmes?
all,
Or
not at all. No, I had this vision of England. Obviously not people wearing that sort of clothes anymore and going on steam train, but there's still quite a few places in England that I think would qualify to write that sort of novel
yeah,
still, really.
I'm not sure if this is completely correct, but I think Sherlock Holmes got the idea about the Hound from Norfolk, from staying in Norfolk, and the story of Black Shuck.
Yeah, he had
Of
that, and then in Devon, because there's a dedication at the beginning of the novel, which it says to somebody, "Oh, thank you for mentioning this West Country legend." And there was Sir Cabell, I think, and there were, he was quite an evil man as well. He liked hunting and terrorizing people. So yeah, there's also that in the West Country, that legends of a cursed
yeah,
family. So, but yeah, because he did stay in Norfolk, didn't he? In
yeah,
Heathrow.
yeah,
Yeah,
and I think yeah, that's where that's what local
yeah,
knowledge
folk,
always said.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
what do you think makes him a really compelling character?
Do you know, the more I think he's just he has no social filter at all. I think if we were discussing, Sherlock Holmes now, I wonder if we will be actually on a spectrum, because he don't seem to have many emotions. But I find him fascinating, because and he knows so many things, but not what is deemed academic. I mean, I know. I think he says once to Watson, "Oh, I don't know anything about planets because it doesn't interest me and it's not useful to me." But he could
Mm,
tell you about ashes from different cigars. So his brain, which is obviously, you know, quite impressive, but actually he chooses not to fill it up with things that are not, you know, useful to him. So you know, and he seems quite cold, but I think he's a very good friend to Watson. You know, their companionship, you know, when they live together, I think it's just, they could sit in silence for ages, and it's not a problem. But he can be quite abrupt. As I say, I don't think he's got any social filter at all. But I've always found him fascinating. Really, I think he's one of the greatest characters ever.
And I've got to be a bit naive here, but is this the one with Moriarty in? Does it?
Yeah.
Does
So yeah, his arch
so tell
enemy
us
is
about.
Moriarty,
Yeah.
who's quite a fascinating character as well. Actually, I think Moriarty is a genius in mathematics. So if Moriarty had decided to be good, he would have made, you know, he would have been really, really good. But he's chose the dark side, really. So he's equally fascinating. Yeah. Yeah,
and he's described sometimes as the nemesis, isn't he, of
yes,
Sherlock
definitely.
Holmes?
And
So they kind of meet their match.
Yeah, and there's another novel where obviously they have a fight at the Reichenbach Falls, where you know, Sherlock Holmes seems to fall to his death because he, you know, Conan Doyle had enough really of him. So he killed him. And then actually the Hand of Baskerville, I think, is the one where actually he makes a comeback. And he was so popular when it was publicized, you know, he was serialized in the Strand, I think it was 1902, that he decided to, you know, carry on, rewrite novels about him. So yeah, Sherlock Holmes came back, which is really good. I just think it's just such, to me it's a classic, and actually I think it's really well written. You know, the description of the moor, and there's an escaped prisoner as well from the lunatic asylum. So yeah, it's all these characters. They're all fascinating.
And what about the impact it had on you reading it? Did it? I mean, we were sort of saying it changes, and reading a novel can change people. Did this change you?
Yeah, because I went on to, I think it opened up, you know, more literature for me, because as I say, I ended up reading all of this many times. And I then went to read Dracula, you know, which I've read many times as well. You know, it's all the same, you know, it's all gothic. And yeah, and it is, and try and read obviously that, and I've read Conan Doyle you know, there was a biography, yeah, and make me read more of this, you know, gothic novels. But yeah, that's what I did. You know, and as I said, I would take this on a desert island, no problem.
So you'd still return to it now, would you?
Yes. Yeah, and I've listened to many audio versions, and I've watched different films.
Yeah. What do you think of the film versions? Who do you like playing him?
Well, I've watched Peter Cushing, and he's quite good. I've watched a very old one which got Nigel Bruce and Basil Rathbone. So that's yeah. But I have to say my favourite ever Sherlock actor is Jeremy Brett, which was in the ITV series. To me, is the equivalent of David Suchet as Poirot. You know, to me, they're the best, because it doesn't make fun of Sherlock Holmes. I think he treats him as a character with great respect, and to me, it's as close as possible to the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you ever so much.
Right.
That's been a really great insight into your passion for Sherlock and sort of detective fiction as well.
Oh gosh, yeah, that's nearly all I read now. So you could say that's how it's changed me, really.
What are you reading at the moment?
What am I reading? I think I've got two on the go. So I've just finished a Norwegian one, Samuel Bjork. I've just finished that, and then I've got I think I've got another one which is called The Darker Arts, and it's also gothic, and it's got seance in it and all that sort of thing. So it's yeah, exactly. So even better.
You like, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you ever scare yourself with what you read?
I have done many times, but because I was reading Stephen King, and it's not a good thing to read at midnight if you're on your own. Stephen King. But yeah, I can't watch any scary things on telly, but I love reading it, you know, and the gorier the better, but only in
Ooh,
the books. Yeah. Yeah, not on telly.
thank you. Yeah.
That's okay.